Mark Cuban went on Sean Hannity's show and they debated Trump versus Biden. Now, I'm, of course, on the record as despising both of them for, substantive policy reasons. This back and forth is interesting to me, and overall, I'd say it didn't go well for Sean. Let's take a look, and then we'll discuss.
All right, so you and I have talked about Trump. You've been on the program now a couple of times. Now I want to talk to you about Biden. First question. Sure. Do you believe that he has the strength, the stamina, the mental acuity, the alertness to be taking on what is the toughest job in the world, being the president of the United States? Do you in your heart believe he does?
100%, absolutely, no question about it.
Okay. Donald
Trump doesn't want to run a country. He wants to run a campaign. Joe Biden actually wants to run a country.
Okay, you give me a bumper sticker. You've told me how you feel about Trump and what you like and dislike. You were honest. You said he did a lot of good things, too. Now, here's my next question. Joe Biden has been on the political scene for 50 years. Now, after Ferguson, Baltimore, Cambridge, and a lot of incidents, he didn't put in police reforms. Donald Trump did that. He was talking about predators in 94. Donald Trump is the one that did criminal justice and prison reform. Donald Trump did opportunity zones, not Joe or Barack. Donald Trump gave us record low after record low unemployment for every minority group in the country, not Joe and not Barack. And so my question is this. That's all fact. That's all fact.
Yeah,
my question.
You gave me the bumper stickers, okay? But look, on the
those
flip
are
side,
facts.
And that's fair, but you can say the exact same thing about every single Republican senator right this moment.
But they're not running for president. I'm asking you this. Joe's been in office 50 years. He was vice president for 8 years. Trump did that, not Joe. So tell me, here's the question. Tell me what Joe has done that you're proud of that qualifies him to be president after 50 years.
He wasn't my senator in Delaware. I don't know, but it's a problem.
He was your vice president.
Sean, it's a problem for all senators. The question you ask when you vote for somebody is what are they
vice president. He was vice president 8 years. What did he do? He had 8 years.
Okay, well, let's say he was a big part of Obamacare, the ACA. Here we are, Sean. You've got millions, if not tens of millions of people losing their employer's insurance. Donald Trump has not said a word. In fact,
that's year one.
Not only has he not said a word about health care, he's looking to end the ACA with no replacement.
Okay, let me ask you this then. All right, this is important. I really want an answer. So in 8 years, the Obama-Biden record is 13 million more Americans on food stamps, 8 million more in poverty, the lowest labor participation rate since the 70s, and Donald Trump's record pre-corona, record low unemployment, African Americans, fact, Hispanic Americans, fact, Asian Americans, youth unemployment, women in the workplace. He's only been in office less than 4 years.
That's like saying, okay, Obama and Biden, they took over after the last really bad recession and grew the economy continuously. But when they had a problem to solve, which was the Great Recession 12 years ago, they solved it. Now, where are we now? We are not solving it. We've had bumps, and that's a beautiful thing. We're going in the right direction.
Mark, we just had 2.5 million new jobs and a record retail sales in the history of the country. Yes, Donald Trump did that, not Biden, in the basement.
You know what? I explained it to my kids, Sean. It's like I explained it to my kids. When your bank account goes from $10 to $1, and then all of a sudden it goes to $2, you can say you doubled your bank account, but you're still down 80%.
So, listen, just so everybody understands, obviously I dislike Sean Hannity, but I actually don't even like Mark Cuban that much. One time me and him got into a back and forth on Twitter. Ideologically, he's right-leaning, and so there's really not much agreement between me and him, or at the very least, you could say he's like a neoliberal. So I don't love the guy, but even he was able to dismantle Sean Hannity's BS. So let's go through it. I think his first point is actually exactly correct when he says, well, Donald Trump loves campaigning and not governing. Yeah, I think that's true. I think he loves campaigning, and I don't think he loves governing, which is why there was that story years ago that after Trump got the nomination, he had reached out to John Kasich to say, will you be my VP and you basically run the country? I'm just going to go all around the country doing my rallies. And why he delegates stuff to people and he tries not to think about it. Like, Wall Street basically came up, Goldman Sachs came up with that tax plan, which gave 83% of the benefits to the top 1%. This is when Trump ran an anti-establishment campaign and he handed over the tax policy to the establishment. This is who he is. He doesn't like governing. He just likes doing the rallies and getting the adulation and the support and you know, the fawning love from his people. So I think that's right. Trump loves campaigning. He doesn't love governing. Now, I actually think that Hannity's right in the very narrow sense that, yeah, Biden is in cognitive decline and he's not up to the job. But, you know, then again, Donald Trump, if you have massive ideological disagreements with Trump, then you're not going to support Trump. Doesn't matter that, you know, Biden's in cognitive decline. If you look at everything Trump's doing and you ideologically disagree with him, it becomes less relevant, that other part. So, you know, there's the next part. They go, Trump did criminal justice reform. This is what Hannity said. Trump did criminal justice reform, and you know, Biden didn't. Biden did the crime bill. Now that's a perfectly fair point. That's a perfectly fair point. It's one of the few things I give Trump credit for, doing criminal justice reform, and you know, going after Biden for the crime bill makes perfect sense. It's led to mass incarceration, but, and this is what Mark Cuban pointed out. Sean, if you go back and look at Sean Hannity and his take on the crime bill back then, I'm sure he supported it. And Cuban points out every Republican supported it. So was Sean Hannity saying all the Republicans were wrong back then? No, he supported it. So what is it that you believe, Sean? Because if he's being honest, he probably believes in the crime bill because he's a tough on crime guy, which would mean Hannity should actually prefer Biden on this. See, I'll admit, I prefer Trump on criminal justice reform to Biden, at least insofar as he did the First Step Act and Biden did the crime bill. I can admit that because I'm not a hack. Sean Hannity's a hack. If he's being honest about his true opinion, he'd say, yeah, I prefer Biden because I like the crime bill. I don't want criminal justice reform. If Obama had done that same criminal justice reform bill that Trump did, Sean Hannity would hate it. And he did. He actually did a segment when Obama was releasing nonviolent drug offenders towards the end of his time in office. Hannity was attacking him. He's releasing criminals. Put the criminals back in prison. See, for Sean, it's just his whole thing is I'm going to play for my team. And so even though I was for the crime bill, now I'm going to pretend like I'm against it and it was a good thing to do criminal justice reform. What do you actually believe? You can never tell because he's a hack. Then he goes to record low unemployment. This is the thing that they said. And the part that made me laugh was he goes, let me give you the numbers. So we had record low African-American unemployment, record low Asian-American unemployment, record low, and he's going through it. And he says, pre-corona. Wait. You don't get a mulligan. It's not like, well, post-corona obviously doesn't count. Of course it counts. You have to deal with it. You're president. You have to roll with the punches. It's a fluid situation. So you have to address the reality as it exists right now. You have to deal with corona. And then try to get everything back in the right direction. That's like excusing, as Mark Cuban points out, that's like saying, oh, well, let's talk about Obama and Biden, but if the Great Recession didn't happen. But you can't do that. You have to... It happened, so you have to deal with it as president. That's the way this works. That's the job. You can't say, well, pre-corona things were looking good. Okay, but we're post-corona now. So are you admitting things don't look good? Because they don't. And then finally, the best point that he made. So Hannity was pushing Mark Cuban here. Give me something that Biden did that you support, that you think is good. And it's definitely a fair question. If you're going to support him, you should have, solid reasons as to why you're going to support him and why Trump is way worse and beyond the pale and why Trump might be so bad that I have to go for Biden. Well, he brings up Obamacare. Now, listen, I'm a Medicare for all guy. So Obamacare to me, that's a right-leaning reform. To be fair to Mark Cuban, he's a right-leaning guy. So this is right up his alley in terms of this is the kind of neoliberal solution that he salivates over. But he makes a decent point. He says, well, with Obamacare, we gave millions of people, tens of millions of people, health care. Under Trump, he got rid of the individual mandate. He used his executive orders to basically put a hatchet in the back of Obamacare. And as a result of that, and now the pandemic, tens of millions of people have lost their health care. We already had 28 million without health care. Now we have another at least 20 million more on top of that who don't have health care. So Biden, even though the bill was flawed, in my opinion, Obama and Biden did give millions of more people health care. Trump, millions of people lost health care with him as president. And in part is a direct result of his executive orders and his policies. That's inexcusable. I can't have millions of people lose health care. I'm not okay with that. And Hannity has no response. Now, Hannity used to beat up on Obamacare all the time, every night on his show. But when you look at the bottom line facts of it, yes, Medicare for all is way better. Yes, Obamacare in many respects is a giveaway to the health insurance company. But there are unquestionably some good things in there. Protections for pre-existing conditions. Making the health insurance companies pay at least 80% of their money to actual health care. They used to have like 50-50 ratios where they were all this money on overhead and wasting it, right? And one of the good things is tens of millions of people got health care. That's unquestionably positive. So Cuban is pushed on, all right, so name something that Biden did that you like then. He thinks it's a gotcha moment. And Cuban's like, Obamacare. Tens of millions of people got health care. Now they lost it under Trump. I'm not okay with that. That's unacceptable. And Hannity's... See, Mark Cuban is, again, he's not my cup of tea. He's way to the right of me. He's a little bit of like a neoliberal, technocratic, micromanager, know-it-all. I think he has a higher opinion of himself than is the reality about him. But even a guy like Mark Cuban can easily dismantle Hannity because Hannity is nothing but a hack, and I think this video is a great example of it.